Forget everything you heard about writing every day and putting in the hours. Winning NaNoWriMo isn't about that. Writing a novel in a month isn't easy, but it can be done if you realize that this challenge is a game, and if you know the rules, you can break them. But how? And what does that even look like? My name is Silver, I'm a published author, and I wrote the first draft of my most successful book in 8 days. My next novel was drafted, edited, and refined in less than a month. I'm not built different, I'm not cheating, I just have a system in place that allows me to maximize my output for short bursts of time, and by the end of this video, you will have that too. That's it, by the way, that's why I'm posting this. I don't gatekeep, I don't believe in gatekeeping, and the idea of you overworking yourself or, God forbid, failing the challenge for no reason pisses me off. I want you to succeed and have fun and not grind your teeth and push through it because you have to. By the way, if I use any writing-related lingo that you're unfamiliar with, check out the video description. I wrote down translations for everything. The secret sauce to winning NaNoWriMo is strategy. Work smarter, not harder. That and knowing your own limits, which is equally important. Since this is a strategy game, let's start by defining our goal. What does winning the challenge even mean? NaNoWriMo notoriously fell from grace over a series of controversial choices they made. I think the last of them was endorsing and encouraging the use of Gen AI in writing. But there's nothing wrong with the idea behind the challenge. You win if you write 50,000 words in a month. Having such an impressive amount of work done is amazing, but using that as a meter for success would just set you up for failure. Numbers are a terrible way to measure progress in any creative endeavor. You wouldn't say that 50 Shades of Grey is bigger or better than A Song of Ice and Fire despite the fact that it sold almost twice as many copies. The reason for that is that the latter had a significant lasting impact on Western society and media and has reshaped its own genre in a way that 50 Shades simply did not. It doesn't necessarily mean that one is better than the other, but you do generally want to prioritize impact over quantity, for example. But how do you, as an author, apply that to your own writing? Well, in simple terms, instead of focusing on writing X number of words, what you want is a usable first draft. Keyword usable, which I will get back to the definition of that in a second. As an example, I've had a complete first draft at 40,000 words and one that was well over 100,000. Limiting yourself to some arbitrary number will just hold you back, so please, if you take one thing away from this video, let it be this. Don't stress the numbers, please. Just do your own thing. But if the numbers don't define success, what does? I did say that anybody doing NaNoWriMo should define success as ending up with a usable first draft, but what does that even mean? Isn't every first draft usable? Well, yes, but also no. A first draft has one job and one job only, and that is to exist. The hardest part of being a writer is finishing a project, which is why when I mentor you guys, I tell you to prioritize completion over quality. But you're not just any writer, are you? You're someone who wants to bring a story to life badly enough that you're willing to try doing that in a month, and that says something about you. That means you have fire, you have drive, and we are gonna use that to elevate your results. But first, what the heck makes a first draft unusable? There's no worse feeling in the world than going over your first draft and realizing that your second draft is gonna have to be a complete rewrite. None. That sucks. They say you should your darlings, but we're not doing that, not in this house. Instead, we're setting ourselves up for success by leaving our darlings room to grow. But how? What makes for a solid enough foundation to build a second draft upon? A good first draft is a skeleton for your novel. It doesn't have to be perfect or even good, but you do, for example, want to have all your major characters already in it, even if you're gonna shuffle them around later. It's okay if the pacing is all over the place or if some plot lines aren't fully fleshed out, as long as you have enough structure to explain what your story is about. Basically, you want something that you can later inflate into a full-fledged novel, and we do that by writing an outline. Don't panic, I know outlines are scary, we are gonna cheat a little. The planner versus pantser debate is a can of worms I'm not touching with a 50-foot pole. There's no correct way to write a novel, and I would never encourage you to go against your nature. So why am I telling you to write an outline? Well, there are different kinds of outlines, and I want you to choose the kind that works for you. Another example, I am a pantser at heart, but I use outlines because I simply do not have the patience to rewrite my manuscripts once I have a first draft. Maybe you do. Maybe you have more freedom. Maybe you can use something more lenient. Some outlines are super long and detailed and have effectively a scene-by-scene breakdown of like everything that happens in an entire novel. The opposite end of the spectrum would have you write as little as possible, some notes about the theme, a bit about your plot lines and character vibes, nothing more. So how do you find a balance between freedom and structure? An outline begins as a series of scenes that are meaningful to your story. Everything else is basically a bunch of bridges you build from point A to point B to flesh out your characters, do a bit of world building, whatever needs to be done, give your story life effectively. How much detail goes into the outline is completely up to you. You could either do the minimum and just describe the most important things, or you could do a deep dive and describe the book start to finish. This is a spectrum and it's meant to serve you, so find the point on it that suits you and stick to it. I know that Brandon Sanderson is super cool, but his methods are just not gonna work for everybody, and that's okay. If you already know how you handle outlines, comment your methods below and maybe your comment can help somebody else find their perfect match. By the way, this is how you know I'm old. This is how I make it hard. I'm old. If Winning NaNoWriMo was a step-by-step guide, step 1 would be writing an outline, whatever that looks like for you. Step 2 is having somebody take a look at it. I know what you're thinking. Finding beta readers is hard, and finding good beta readers is even harder. The thing is, you don't need a beta reader. The goal of this step isn't to measure the quality of your outline, it's just to check if it makes sense. Anybody who consumes media of any sort, be it books, movies, TV shows, YouTube videos, would be able to point out glaring plot holes that you may have missed or ask you clarifying questions, that would help you do that yourself. As an example, maybe it's not clear who the antagonist is, or they want to know what happens to the protagonist's little sister in the end and you forgot to describe that in the outline, or they just want to know if the mentor character is actually, or are they just pretending for the hero's sake? These kinds of things take zero expertise to spot, and you could probably have your mom do it, you just gotta ask, which is complicated, I will admit, so if you have a friend or somebody who knows how to deliver gentle critique, definitely go for that. Cool, so what about step 3? Once you have an outline you're satisfied with, it's time to get to writing, but you still have one more choice to make. Do you go for linear writing or non-linear writing? Linear writing would have you write the story chronologically, scene by scene, right? But sometimes you just end up with a scene that's not fun to write. You can't skip it. That is allowed. Leave some sort of placeholder, like maybe a paragraph describing the events that happened or like some part of dialogue, and then move on. Forget about it. If, however, you have a more robust outline, you can actually write the story from any point you want, which is what I did, for example, with Changebringer. The first thing I ever wrote for the second draft was like the final battle. Because sometimes it's fun, and I can, so why not? And you can do that too. Like if you're writing a love story, you can start with writing the emotional climax and then spend the rest of your writing process building up to it, because you know where you're going. If you're writing a mystery, you can start with the big reveal. Who's gonna stop you? Not me. Do whatever you want, just keep in mind that that is an option. A final tip before we move on is try to batch your writing days. Writing 1,500 words a day is so much harder than writing 10,000 words a week. You come home exhausted from work and you need to find time to write. Some people manage it, I know, I can't. My strategy for this month is to do all my chores and all the stuff I have to do like during the week and then have the weekends open so that I can actually write for long patches of time. I'll be streaming my writing sessions over at my second channel, so if you also write over weekends and want to join me, feel free, I would be happy to have you. Speaking of which, if you're finding this video helpful, I would really appreciate it if you liked it so that I can reach more people and maybe help them too. That's it, back to business. Steps 1 to 3 are done. With strategy out of the way, let's talk about execution and the 4 rules that will either make or break your NaNoWriMo run. Number 1, and I cannot stress this enough, do not edit your first draft at all. No filling in plot holes, not bad writing, and definitely not typos. Early editing is the number 1 thing holding writers back from completing a manuscript, and you know why? Because it's wasteful and it creates an illusion of progress, which is a really dangerous combo. But Silver, I have a plot hole, and if I don't patch it up, the rest of the story won't make sense. Excellent, that's exactly what your outline is for. You can always refine it, take notes on what to change in the second draft, and then continue as if you already patched up the plot hole. But what does that actually look like? I was about halfway through writing the first draft of Changebringer when I decided that I want to completely cut out the second male lead, which is a very bold choice to make for a Romantasy. I left like 30 comments on my outline to sew shut all the plot holes that opened in his absence and then continued writing the rest of the novel as if I always only had one male lead. In my next novel, Scars and Starlight, I introduced the antagonist way too late, so I went to the outline, dropped a bunch of places where that antagonist would be relevant, and left that for the second draft. I moved on. I did not touch that. It's that easy. The key to winning NaNoWriMo is momentum. You're a race car. You can't afford to reverse and pick up something you dropped from your window. You're much better off picking it up in the next lap. So don't edit your work, but wait, there's more. The second tip is that your first draft needs to be trash, and if it isn't, you are wasting far too much effort on making it beautiful. You will have to cut out chunks of your story, and you will have to rewrite even some of your most favorite paragraphs, so don't waste your time decorating them. When you go back to edit your first draft, the process will just be that much more painful because you poured out so much of your heart and soul into it. Spare yourself the heartache. Beautiful writing has a place, and that place is in the second draft. For now, focus on functionality and practicality. We avoid fixing typos for the same reason, by the way. You will be going over them again anyway. Why bother doing that now? 3, and related, is write ugly. Your dialogue doesn't have to be more than he said, she said. If you're stuck, leave it at that. You can set up the scene, the location, the setup later. For now, just make it exist. Momentum, momentum, momentum. Finally, tip number 4. For the love of God, take notes. If you're unhappy with your writing, be it the content or the quality, take notes and save them for the next draft. Refining your draft is incredibly important, but it's just not the thing you should be focusing on until you have a complete manuscript. These notes will serve as your guidelines when you finish your draft and work on the next one. Isn't that exciting? You're setting yourself up for success, and all it takes is a bit of patience. These 3 steps and 4 tips cover the basics. If you do that, you will have a complete, usable draft by the end of the month. But if you want to go beyond that, if you want to actually feel proud of your work, let's level up. 1. Identify your natural writing rhythm. Some people do their best work when they're exhausted. Not me, don't look at me like that. I write in the morning, and basically we need to use every advantage. So if that's you, use that. 2. Forcing yourself to write will take the fun out of it. Instead, put yourself in a writing mood. Let your phone battery die so you're not tempted to grab it. Go to a cute coffee shop. Do some ambient music stuff, the vibes, whatever you need. The best option though is to bully a friend into doing the challenge with you, which is what I did, by the way, and also why I'm doing my writing streams. Libraries are an effective study space because it's hard to lose focus when everybody around you is also working hard. Writing streams help you stay motivated because everybody else around you is also doing their best to finish a novel in a month. It really does help me a ton, and hopefully it can help you too. 3. If you just feel like it's not going smoothly, try switching to a different scene, or even just write a scene from a different project. Whatever it takes to get you back in the writing mood. 4, and this one is controversial, I recommend actually completely skipping fight scenes and scenes that require delicacy and descriptions of location, all that kind of stuff. The reason for that is that these scenes are so sensitive to any change in the story that they're bound to be different by the time you get to the second draft. I don't make the rules, it's just how it is. I say leave a placeholder and skip that entirely. Don't come from me, it's just my opinion. Last but definitely not least, please don't be hard on yourself. Do your best and remember that your best is good enough. If you finish your draft in December, that's still a massive win because you started a challenge with no draft and finished with a draft. If you have kids, for example, I have an unfair advantage over you, and that's something you have to take into account when comparing yourself to me. Somebody else might have more free time or has an easier time focusing. And good for them, it doesn't say anything about you. Do your own thing, walk your path, and you will reach the goal. So now you're ready for NaNoWriMo, but what's next? Well, you use the fact that I respond to every single comment on here and also on my other socials to ask as many questions as you want about literally anything. Productivity, organization, writing, general advice, whatever you need, I am here for you. I want to help. Please give me that privilege. Here are some videos you might find useful, and if you'd like to see more of this kind of content, definitely subscribe. And if you've made it this far, add this emoji to your comments so I know you're in it for the long haul and I know whose journey to follow. I'm excited for you. I'll see you guys over at the streaming channel starting November 1st. Good luck, you got this.